This episode of Muddy River Gems is brought to you by Dot Foods.
I think what it comes down to is the culture and the people.
Our culture here at Dot is like no other. I've never experienced anything like what I've lived with for the last 12 years.
Dot is very diverse.
It is truly a family-owned business, but it is a family inside and out.
You always feel like you matter and you play a big hand in the pot.
There's so many opportunities to make a difference at Dot and really contribute to the success of the organization.
Well, nearing 50 years old with 50 locomotives and 500 cars, maybe the last place you'd expect to find a really sophisticated layout like this is in the basement of a nursing home. But the Quincy Society of Model Engineers is here, and we can't wait to show it to you. This edition of Muddy River Gems is sponsored by Dot Foods. Ed Dietrich, we're watching one of these steamers leave the yard.
Right.
You have looked to me like you're in an area that is like a command center. Is that what you call it?
That is what it is called. It is a central traffic control system dispatching unit.
Yeah.
This would be a very similar to what they have on as any big railroad. And they would have, communications through the radios and through visual aids of telling them what's happening on trackage. This would give them all kind of the inputs set forth, and would tell. That way they could perform their job, as efficiently as possible.
How many of engineers do you have out there that are operating trains right now?
We have two in operation.
Okay. You got something like 500 cars and 50 locomotives.
Yep.
I mean, you could have an accident.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If you don't have somebody that tells that pulls the more or less as a traffic cop.
Yeah.
And that's basically what he's doing.
Now, we're looking at your screen right now. Show us what that tells you.
It tells me that there's a train at leaving Emporium and a train leaving Benazet. The red lines shows occupancy.
Okay. All right. And so what are you actually looking for? You want to make sure that there's not a collision, of course.
Yes, I'd say right now they're on two separate lines, so there's no conflict. But if there was another train, such as that at Glen Hazel, I'd have to hold that second train in the siding at Glen Hazel, and via throwing switches. So this is where he would be if I had a train.
Okay, and you can do that from here. You can throw the switches.
Yeah,
every switch available on this setup is here, and you can throw every switch from here.
Yes.
Okay, well you better be quick, right? you don't want to be late on that.
That's correct, and as I said, that's why we try to have as much correct information as we can, relaying both visually and radio.
Yeah. So is the goal here to be as realistic, as much like a real-life command center as possible?
Yes. That was the goal set into play. That way you have somebody that you have a person that directs the traffic. That's all I'm doing. As I'm directing, I have no control of whether that train will move, but I give him permission to move. And that's where because I said we got another train that was just popping up there at Lockhaven. He's coming around the corner.
Yeah, I see the red line. Okay, yep. That means he's moving.
That means he's moving.
All right. Well, we're going to get with some of your engineers here and have them show us how they do this, how they get them moving, and
Okay.
and how they choose, where they're going next.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Jim Keller, when the original architect of this layout, he had his idea. He drew this map,
Right.
and he called this the Chesapeake to Lake Erie, right?
Right.
Railroad, and Chesapeake's down here, and of course it would work its way all the way to Lake Erie here.
Right.
Not that that's a real railroad, but that's what the architect had in mind.
That's
right?
correct. Yeah.
And that architect passed away, but he was here for many years, wasn't he?
Right.
And you, of course, worked with him, Jerry Kemner.
Right.
Pretty
Sure did.
bright guy, wasn't he?
Yes. Yes.
Do you think what he had in mind actually came to fruition here?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. He was alive for most of this. There's maybe a few areas that we've added since then, but I think he was quite pleased with the way it came out.
There aren't many layouts this extensive. Jim, if we could, let's go around this way and take a look. Sort of give the audience a
Okay.
look at what this whole layout looks like. There's a steamer going right there.
Yeah, this is the town of Keating.
What's the town?
Keating,
Okay.
Keating, Pennsylvania. That's a real town. I'm not sure the trackage and the way it looks is the way the actual Keating looks. But most of the town names are.
It's a big rail yard.
Yeah, it's
And
our largest.
I just love the way you guys do this. How you build the town. Of course, that takes a lot of imagination because if there's no real Keating, then
Right.
you kind of had to make it up, didn't
That's
you?
true. That's true.
And
We-
all
we
these
made
buildings and cars and all these things. Now I know that the locomotives and the cars you buy those, but what about all this? Do you make all that, or is that all available for sale somewhere?
Most of that's available for sale. The buildings are largely kits, but in part of the layout and some of the other layouts, they're what we call scratch built, where they're built from either styrene or wood or something like that. I think most of them they're probably kits.
Well, that's very impressive.
But all the cars and the buildings and the signs ought to fit within the era that we do, which is 1958. So there'd be nothing newer than 58.
Okay, all
And
right.
I think
so,
like
yeah.
you see a car dealer there, and inside of that car dealer will be probably 1958 cars.
And that sure is. I remember them. Yep. And look, all the cars parked, of course, are
Right.
all prior to 58.
Right. And you might
Oh, nice.
see the accident that's happened back there.
Oh, yeah, right between the buildings.
Right.
I hope nobody's hurt.
Yeah. Well, there's an ambulance there.
Yeah. Okay, and what's on our left here? What are we looking at on our left?
This is another town of Johnsonburg, and we don't depict much of the town here. We show this and leave it to the imagination that the rest of the town is off this way.
I love that. You got a little animation going on. Yeah.
Right, and along with the era of 1958, the movie should fit in that era. Elvis and Jailhouse Rock. Also, the price of gasoline, $26.9 for a gallon. That's all made to fit within the era.
Those were the good old days, weren't they,
Yeah,
Jim?
and then you see here's kind of a park,
Yep. Kids on teeter-totter. Yep.
and we've got a couple of guys working and painting the bridge. And you can't see it down there, but there's a Gardner Denver compressor for painting.
And then up here, there's a sort of I'm not sure what that is, that little village.
Another town. That's kind of a coal mining town. Those are all company houses. So they all look the same.
Yep. They all work for the mine, and there's
Right.
probably a company store in there
Right.
too.
And mine's on the other side. And that's all serviced by the narrow gauge trackage. That's the HO. That's the narrower rails, and it comes up there and gets coal, and takes it back down to the other end of the layout that we haven't looked at yet. But that coal is transferred into other HO full wide gauge cars or standard gauge cars.
Okay, keep moving here. And like you say, and you actually do, when you're out running your trains, you're actually doing work. You're actually
Right.
loading trains so they would have a purpose.
Yeah, in our mind we're loading them.
Yeah, right. And Rockville, or Denning, I guess is the name of this town.
Yeah, it's actually more of a junction here. And that's named after a former member who passed on to many years ago. So that's one of the exceptions to having real town names for the layouts. This is what we call a staging track under here. and it's simply a place to store made-up trains, and it can actually become a destination also. Youngstown and Williamsport is what we call this. There's no scenery involved. Like I say, trains are made up and stored here, and they will go out, and they're called for on the dispatcher sheet, but they're taken out and actually do work on the layout. And they may come back here, and they may not.
Okay. I'm going to let the camera go in there because there's not much room.
Okay.
And there comes a train down the track there.
Right.
Is he heading is he a made-up train? Is he heading somewhere with something?
Yes. Yes. What we call a manifest is what the computer generates. Has all those cars on it, and will tell the engineer to drop some of them off at certain industries or pick up others.
Okay, let's go this way, because there's a fella at work over here. It looks like he's making up a train. You getting ready to make a delivery?
Yeah.
I'm gonna deliver down there at the engine house.
And Dave is. This isn't one of the other yards like Keating. It's a place where cars are stored. But what Dave is doing is, again, by the computer, he's picking out certain cars to take and deliver to some of the industries there to our left. And then when he gets those all together, he'll take that whole train, and it'll be a very short run, just across the way here, and service the industries that are behind you right now.
Yeah.
So.
Now this is the back side. This is the mine. This is the back side of that company village that we just saw, right? Okay.
Yeah, the back side of Johnsonburg.
Boy, there's a lot of building to something like this. I mean, look at all this plaster and all this work that went. In fact, the young lady that did much of this scenery is here, didn't
Barb,
she?
yes.
She's pretty gifted. I mean, this is a lot of work.
Yep.
And it looks real.
We're glad to have her do that.
Yep.
And over the years, even the techniques for doing scenery have evolved. For example, on other layouts, we actually put static grass on the scenery, and that's where you have some fibers. You put it in a machine that has a high voltage, and you actually put some glue down, and you shake that over, and actually grass will stand up into different lengths of grass, and it looks very realistic. This is more or less just using different materials, but not quite as realistic as standing grass and weeds.
Dave, we kind of got a description of what you were working on, but I'm not really sure I'm clear on it myself.
Sometimes I'm not either.
What you guys try to do is you get an assignment from the computer, right? And it tells you that these are the cars you should be loading with this product and moving it into this destination. Is that sort of what you're doing?
Yep.
So here we are in Portland Mills?
Yes.
So what are you doing in Portland Mills at this moment to try to get industry going?
So what I'm doing right now is this is just one of the many trains that are built here. So this train serves just the Portland Mills area. It's just what they call a local. So I've just completed some switching down here, and then we're going to head down that way and get our train assembled to go across the main line, because it's actually, I have to call the dispatcher and get permission to get out. And then he'll let me in on the other side there, and then I'm free to roam around whatever I need to do over there.
Now, is that dispatcher, is he the first fellow we interviewed at the control center?
Yes.
Okay, he'll give you permission to move?
Yep.
Okay, so that way you know, it's sort of like at the airport, you know that there's no jets coming in and you're free to go ahead and land, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's pretty realistic. I mean, that's, when I worked for the railroad, it was quite similar to that, and having to get a hold of the dispatcher to get across the main line and do our job. So I was quite surprised when I first joined up and started coming down here in 2005, and it's like, oh, this is home.
Well, you really do strive to be as realistic as possible, don't you? And all the pitfalls and all the safety issues and all that stuff, you try to address all of that.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's what makes it fun. You've also been real active in the Monticello volunteer club.
Right.
They run real trains.
Correct. That's actually where I got my start when I was in high school. I worked there, or volunteered there for a number of years. Got my engineer certificate there, conductor certificate, and all that other stuff. Wow. And then through the years, I've had miscellaneous. I was actually a diesel mechanic on locomotives for a number of years, and then got into operations on a couple different railroads until just recently.
And as you get older, your trains get smaller and smaller, don't they?
Well, I'll tell you what, sometimes it's nice to have them smaller and smaller.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
We'll be right back.
From our trucks to their lunch trays, to your local hospital, to your favorite pub, and to your kitchen table. For more than 60 years, Dot Foods and Dot Transportation have been stocking the shelves of your hometown. Sure, we've grown a lot, but at our core, we're still small-town, family-run businesses that care about our communities and the people who keep us running. Join the Dot family today and be part of something bigger.
Why work at Dot?
You could list out individual qualities forever.
There's a lot of opportunities.
They take care of the employees, they take care of the community.
So our pay, our benefits, it's competitive. Time off, tons of flexibility.
They're willing to work with you to help you advance.
Barb Stahl, all this scenery had to come from somewhere. It didn't just happen, did it?
That's right.
I mean, you can put the layout down, and you can run the track and everything, but it doesn't look like much if you just leave it exposed.
That's right.
So what was your role in all this?
Well, I enjoy working, making scenes and doing the painting and things like that, and making it come to life, really.
You have to have an imagination to do that, because you have to look at it. You have to look at a wall like this or like that, and you have to say, you know what ought to go there? Something ought to go there, and that's what it ought to be. So you really particularly are fond of this area over here. Why? What about it?
Well, because the rock area, it took a lot of work to get that, but it looks really good. You can see where the trains go through the tunnel portals.
There's one coming out right now. Look at that.
It looks really natural. It looks like something you would see on the real railroad.
It sure does. It sure does. And making those tunnels, that probably took you a few times, didn't it, to get it right?
It took a lot of work. Yes, a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. How do you build up that? What is that? Is that?
We start out with styrofoam.
Oh, okay.
And then we just put the plaster on top of it and shape it.
And how do you shape it? You use a knife of some kind?
Yes. All sorts of things, knives, wire brush.
Well, you got to brush that a lot to get that texture, don't you? It really does look real. The striations look very real. What do you make the trees out of?
The trees we make out of Live Forevers. It's a sedum plant, and the flower of the plant has a head on it, and basically when it starts to dry at the end of the year, we harvest those, we put preservative on them, then we dip them in glue or paint, and then put the foam on top of it to get the tree effect. And then we just layer them up, tall ones, short ones, just to make the hillside effect.
Of course, and I call it a mural, but you've got this wall. You had to paint this wall to get the effect into the backdrop. Did you consider yourself a painter before?
I've painted. My dad was a painter, and I helped him a lot when I was younger. So I'm comfortable with paint. But
the sky, the clouds are really, really cool.
Well, thank you.
Well, that must be very, very challenging and very rewarding too, because you walk in here and you go, I did that.
Yes, yes, very proud of what we've done.
Nathan, if I had your job, I'd be tempted to just come down here on a night when the model engineers are working and just sort of check it out.
Sure.
It's kind of neat, isn't it?
It is. It is. I've been here about 2 years, and I remember I was brought down here the first time they were allowed back in the building after COVID, so April of 21, and just to see this amazing setup and everything they do down here. Had no idea it was even in the basement here at Good Samaritan.
It's an eye-opener, because we all think of model trains as, when we were a little kid, we had a little round track and you'd put a train on it and go. But this is a real operation, isn't it? I mean, this is very extensive.
It is, yeah. When I came in and saw all the switchboards and all the electronics that go into it, and just the the sheer man hours it would take to put something together like this.
Oh,
I mean, this
goodness.
It's a large room.
And
so.
you know, it's not every residential facility like Good Samaritan that has something like this in the basement. How did this come about? Do you know?
Well, I know a little bit of the history. They've been here around 48 years. 1974, 1975 is the best anybody can nail it down. And you know, it was just kind of brokered with a former administrator, Mr. Foose, and we had the space, and the Model Engineers, you know, Club was around, and we thought, you know, why not let them have this? This would be something, you know, what a feather in your cap to have this in your basement.
Yeah.
Just for everybody to enjoy, the residents, the public, when they hold their open houses and things like that. So, as far as I can tell, that is how it came about, and here we are all the way in 2022.
It draws people, doesn't it? I mean, if they have an open house, people want to come see it. It gets them familiar with Good Samaritan, and you know, maybe it works both ways.
Yeah, it does, and we love to have people in, and especially now that we can. So having something like this downstairs to show off, it's just another facet of the home, really, and it's great.
Yeah, there was one other interesting historic tidbit that I wanted to mention because I wasn't aware of this. There was a time before this or during this period, that you actually had a radio station here for your residents, right? You know, if they were close by, they could pick up the radio signal. And that was going on. These folks kind of helped you get that on the air, didn't they?
Correct. They're the ones who set it up for us. December 21st, 1987, they went live. WGSH. It was an AM radio station, and all of our residents could pick it up, all of our cottagers. And they're the ones who set that up for us. So, you know, a blessing in disguise there as well.
Yeah, well, you know, one hand shakes the other and it all works out. And here we go, right here. Look at this. Isn't that cool?
Very cool.
Now, Larry, you can operate more than one train at a time.
Yes, I can do
because
two.
You've got what we call a throttle.
Correct.
Right? And this is it controls digitally your trains, but you have to code it in first so it knows which trains you're talking about. Right?
Sure.
Okay, so how does that happen?
Well, first we want to turn the knob that we want to assign a train to and hit loco, and then we call up the engine number, and that one over there is 5281, and loco again, and then it's assigned. And then we got this other one over here, we turn the knob to get its attention, to get that, and we hit loco 1964, and loco again, and now it's assigned.
Okay, so you can run them both. Could you run more than two?
No.
No, just two.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's about all my brain can multifunction.
So really, if you're doing this and your whole club is here, and you've got the man at the control back there, you've got a headset on, and so while you're operating these two trains, he's keeping you. He knows where you are, and he's keeping you informed about what you should and shouldn't be doing.
Correct.
Okay.
You know, go here, stop here, meet this other train here.
Okay. So this one to my right over here, this is the one that you just started, right?
Correct.
This
Both
is
of them,
yours.
yes.
Okay. Oh, and I see. And here's the other one. They're going to come here, and they're going to. Will they ever cross again, or will this be the only time that they actually cross each other?
They're on the same line, so one's following the other. I don't think anymore.
Okay.
I don't think that would.
They're on the same line.
They would meet like this.
Tell us about that one up there. That's a steamer, isn't it?
Correct. It's one of the members in the club. That's his birth year of 1964. Is why he numbered the engine that way. And they're both, like Jim mentioned before, they're both manifest trains. They would probably stop and do switching in a yard, and there would be a switch list that they would go through and set out these cars, pick up these cars, and then go on their merry way.
Now, I think you have about 500 cars in this club. Do the club owners own their own cars, or do you all collectively own the whole thing? How does that work?
The club owns all the cars for the most part on the layout. Now, people can bring their own down, but they're not in the computer. And all the ones here are in the computer, so the computer can generate lists. It has to know about the car. So if somebody brings something down, they would just be to run. They wouldn't be able to switch them because they weren't be in the computer. Frequently, though, members bring their own engines down because the engines aren't in the computer, and you can just put another engine on the train and go where you want with it.
Have you always been a train fanatic?
Yes, yes.
Even as a kid?
Yeah. When I don't remember how old I was, but pretty young, our family doctor got me an O-scale train. I'm guessing for Christmas, I think it might have been. And so ever since then, we put that up around the tree or something, and ever since then, just been, different, working with different trains.
Yeah. How long have you been a member of this club?
Since 1982.
You guys hang around, don't you?
Yeah.
You really, I mean, once you're in, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's a few of us like that. There's some that come and go. Some, like they're young. We had a 12 or 16-year-old join, and then he got busy with high school and girls and stuff, so he goes away for a while. And some of them then come back later when they get married, and then go away again when they have kids and come back. So sometimes you have some that are like that they come and go.
Do you meet weekly or more than that?
Weekly.
Weekly.
Yeah, the business meeting is the first Thursday of the month, and then all the other weeks we meet on Friday.
And now that, COVID's almost a thing of the past now, you guys aren't going to be having those issues to deal with. You can come and go from here as you wish. You were kind of closed down for a while, weren't you?
We hope that, but being a nursing home, they have to look out for their residents.
Sure.
So there's also always a possibility that they could say, oh, we got to lock down again because we're having an uptick in COVID. You just never know. With a nursing home.
Yeah.
So.
But when you and your wife get each other Christmas presents, do you get? Is it train associated?
Not usually. It's usually something we need for the house. Yeah. But maybe in the past, like 20 years ago, maybe. Yeah. But not
a new locomotive this year. Huh?
No, not really. Yeah. So.
Thanks, Larry.
Sure.
The Quincy Society of Model Engineers usually has their open house annually, the 1st of December. And if you'd like to learn more about them, you can check them out at that open house. With another edition of Muddy River Gems, stories from Illinois, Missouri, and beyond, I'm Mark McDonald.
This episode of Muddy River Gems was brought to you by Dot Foods.